Hello guys, welcome to Storytimes. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise, even more interesting stories. I still remember the way she stood, like she was bracing for applause instead of consequences. We were in her parents' living room. I've been invited under the pretense of having a mature discussion about our recent distance. I should have known better. Whenever her family got involved, it felt more like a courtroom than a conversation. Her father liked to pretend he was fair and wise. Her mother didn't even pretend, just judged. And her sister? She had always worn that smug, dismissive expression around me, like I was the family's charity project. So I sat there, surrounded by people who shared her blood, and waited. She didn't hesitate. "I cheated," she said, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the wall behind me. "And I'm not sorry. I needed someone stronger." That was it. No tears. No shame. Not even a pause. Her words hit like cold water to the face, sharp, sudden, and strangely sobering. For a second, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe she was quoting a book or movie, something she'd seen on Netflix that morning. But no, she meant it. Her face told me everything. That slight tilt of her chin, the defensive posture, the way she blinked just a little too fast. She was expecting a reaction. I didn't give her one. I just looked at her. Looked at the woman I'd loved, shared a life with, defended countless times against her own toxic family. The woman who used to cry when I brought her tea after long days, who used to cling to me at night like I was the only stable thing in her world. Now she wanted to tell me I wasn't strong enough. But what really got me wasn't her confession. It was what came next. Her mother exhaled sharply, like the truth had finally escaped. "Well," she said, folding her arms like a villain straight out of a soap opera, "can you really blame her?" That's when the absurdity started to sink in. I turned my head, slowly, toward her mom. Waiting. She didn't flinch. "I mean, you've always been mild," she continued. "You let her take the lead on everything. Some women need a man who..." "Who what?" I asked calmly. "Who knows how to take charge," her sister interjected. "Someone who doesn't always play it safe." "God, even your voice is soft." The room went quiet for a second. Her father gave a half shrug, as if the balance of the universe had tilted in her favor and he didn't want to get in the way. "I'm just saying," he offered. Maybe she was looking for more than comfort. Comfort. The word echoed in my mind. That was what I'd been to them. Comfort. Not passion. Not power. Not status. Just dependable, quiet, steady comfort. And apparently, that made me disposable. I didn't lash out. I didn't yell. I didn't even blink. I sat there, letting their words wash over me like warm rain on concrete, ineffective. They were hoping I'd lose control, that I'd snap, give them something to point at, and say, "See? He's the problem." Instead, I did what I always do. I listened. And as I listened, the most surreal part of the whole experience wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing how unoriginal it all was. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd rehearsed it with them. She had delivered that line. I needed someone stronger, like a punchline they'd all been practicing behind my back. This wasn't a confession. It was a performance. The royale kicker came when her sister leaned forward and, with a smirk, said, "Honestly, we all saw this coming. You never really matched her energy." I wanted to laugh. Not out of madness, but out of disbelief. Energy? As if marriage was a rave and I'd brought a book. The only person who hadn't spoken yet was her younger cousin, Jamie, who sat awkwardly on the arm of the couch, sipping from a can of ginger ale and pretending to text. I caught him glance at me. There was something in his eyes, hesitation, pity maybe, or guilt, but he didn't say a word. And that silence told me more than anything they had. Because even in a room full of voices, the truth always shows itself in who doesn't speak. My wife, or maybe I should say my ex-wife in the making, stood across from me, waiting. She had that look like she was prepared for war, but was annoyed she didn't get to fire the first shot. "You have nothing to say?" she asked, almost impatient. I smiled. Just a small one. Enough to show her I wasn't playing along. Not anymore. I stood up slowly, brushing off my jeans like the room had left dust on me. "I think you said everything." And I meant it. But she had no idea what was coming next. Because when someone tells you you're not strong enough, what they really mean is they hope you're not. Too bad for her. I was about to show them all just how wrong they were. I drove home in silence. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I was finally starting to understand everything. It's strange what a single sentence can do. I needed someone stronger. That line didn't just crack our marriage, it reframed it. Suddenly, moments that never made sense before fell into place like they'd been waiting for context. The smug look on her face when I offered to handle her car repairs last month. The way her phone was always flip-screen down when she left the room. The mysterious extra hours at her new consulting gig, which, according to her, paid less but felt more fulfilling. The dots were everywhere. I just hadn't been connecting them. Or maybe I had. Maybe I just didn't want to admit the picture they made. But now I saw it. All of it. And I wasn't sad. I wasn't furious, either. I was something worse for her. I was done. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my mind was already moving. I wasn't thinking about saving the marriage or getting revenge. I was thinking about precision. There's something about betrayal that strips the fog from your eyes. It reminds you of who you were before you spent years compromising yourself into something smaller just to make a woman feel big. I unlocked the door, walked into our quiet home, and closed it behind me. Then I laughed, softly, to myself, because now I had nothing left to lose. And that made me dangerous. I didn't rage or break things. I sat down at the kitchen table and made a list. Pen on paper, old school. Something about writing it out made it feel real. Solid. The list wasn't long. It was simple. Banking. Separate my finances. Move direct deposit. Cancel the joint cart. Proof. Pull the messages. Screenshot everything. Check the shared drive. Exit strategy. Lawyer up. Quietly. Pick a date. Final move. Don't confront. Let her fall first. That last one was important. Because she was so sure she'd won. So confident her little family tribunal had stripped me of my spine. They thought silence meant weakness. What they didn't know was that silence is what strength sounds like when it's thinking. That night, I didn't sleep in our bedroom. I took the guest room, claiming I had a headache. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and was just glad to have the space. Either way, I slept better than I had in months. In the morning, she tried to act normal. Made her green juice. Asked me if I wanted coffee. Not because she cared. Just because she needed to maintain the performance. Keep up the image. I told her I was good. She didn't ask again. While she was in the shower, I pulled up our shared financial accounts on my phone. Within minutes, I had the passwords changed, my paycheck redirected, and a new account set up at a different bank. By noon, I had the name of a family attorney from a colleague, someone discreet. Efficient. I wasn't rushing. This wasn't about impulse. This was about design. In the days that followed, I started documenting everything. Texts, call logs, screenshots of conversations she didn't know I could see because she forgot to unsync her desktop from our shared cloud folder. A rookie mistake. There were flirty messages from a guy named Kellen. Gym guy. Way too many emojis. Photos that weren't explicit, but weren't innocent either. He called her Tiger. She called him Captain. I guess that was supposed to be hot. It was all there. And I didn't feel a damn thing. Not jealousy. Not heartbreak. Just validation. Every time she smiled at me during dinner, every time she kissed my cheek like it meant something, it only made what I was doing feel more justified. She was performing. So was I? But the difference? I was the one who knew it was all fake now. She was just an actress still reading her lines, unaware the script had changed. One evening, while she was on the phone in the backyard, laughing too loud, sipping wine she hadn't paid for, I scrolled through her Venmo transactions. That's when I found it. Her mother had sent her $200 with the caption, for the Airbnb, "Don't let him ruin your weekend." Airbnb. She hadn't just cheated. She'd planned for it. Her whole family knew. That was the moment something inside me hardened. Because they didn't just disrespect me. They dismissed me. Like I was some weak little footnote in her coming-of-age story. The starter husband she'd outgrown. That's when I decided I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to remove myself so cleanly, so completely, that the vacuum I left behind would suffocate them. All of them. Especially her. And best of all, I wasn't going to raise my voice once. I'd already started walking away. They just didn't know it yet. There's a strange kind of power in being underestimated. For the first time in years, I felt it. She was busy texting, posting pictures, laughing at reels in bed while I sat on the edge, pretending to scroll through emails. She thought I was still stuck. Still the quiet, dependable guy who wouldn't leave even if she lit the house on fire. She had no idea. The day after I confirmed the Airbnb messages, I visited the lawyer. A small office. No windows in the waiting room. Just the soft hum of a coffee machine and a lamp that buzzed when it flickered. The receptionist smiled like she'd seen 100 of me, calm on the outside, shattered underneath. I want a clean break. I told him. I don't want revenge. I want silence. Efficiency. Power. He raised an eyebrow. You have evidence? I pulled out a flash drive. Dropped it on the table. She cheated, I said. With help. And then, just because it felt right, I added, and I'm going to make sure she's still smiling when I leave, so she never sees it coming. He grinned like he understood. The next week was all choreography. I started small. I pulled out of the mortgage auto pay. Just a click. She didn't notice. I stopped filling her gas tank. Didn't say a word. I let her car hit E. Let her feel that tiny drop of inconvenience. When she asked, did you forget to fill up? I just smiled. Thought you had it. She blinked. Confused. But let it go. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about reminding myself I didn't owe her anything anymore. Each day, I took something back. My favorite tools from the garage, boxed up and moved to a rented unit across town. My passport, safe deposit box, joint credit card, canceled. She never noticed. Too busy living in her fantasy world, talking about launching a wellness brand, with her none of whom had jobs or actual business plans. And yet, every time she laughed with them on speakerphone, calling me predictable, I stayed silent. Because the thing about predictable people, they're often the ones who've already left. You just haven't seen the space they vacated yet. One night, I cooked dinner. Not takeout. Real food. She was surprised. I made her favorite, lemon chicken, garlic green beans, and roasted potatoes. Wow, she said. Pouring wine. You're trying. I laughed quietly. I am. She thought it was a peace offering. Maybe even an apology. But the only apology I was making was to myself, for waiting this long to act. After dinner, she reached across the table and touched my hand. Something rehearsed. Controlled. You've been really mature lately, she said. I appreciate that. I almost lost it right there. Not out of pain. Out of amusement. Mature. Like I was the child who needed managing. Like I hadn't been the one paying for her lifestyle while she played CEO of Vibes with Kellen the gym god. I let her sit with that version of the story. Let her believe she was in control. Because the real moment wasn't coming from me. It was coming from them. Her family. They've been so loud in that room. So bold in their accusations. But families like that, they only function when they think they're winning. Take away the illusion, they cannibalize each other. And I just pulled the first thread. The next time I saw her sister was at a grocery store. I didn't plan it. She was in the produce section, FaceTiming someone, sunglasses on indoors like she was famous. She saw me. Smirked. I hear things are better at home, she said, popping a grape into her mouth like a child who'd never been told no. I smiled. They are. Then I walked off, leaving her wondering. I didn't know her explanations. What I did owe her was the opportunity to watch what happens when the family golden girl loses her golden goose. Because without me, they'd have to pay for their own dinners, their own erms, their own weekends in wine country. I've been footing more of their fantasy than even I realized. But not anymore. By the end of the week, the first overdraft notice hit her email. A spa membership bounced. She came storming into the living room, phone in hand, demanding, "Did you change the payment settings on the joint card?" "No," I said calmly. "I canceled it." Her voice rose. "You canceled it without telling me?" I didn't think I had to. That stunned silence. That was the first real crack in her performance. She stormed off to call her mother. I overheard pieces of the conversation. It wasn't going well. Apparently, her mom's contribution to the Airbnb trip had bounced too. A house of cards built on fake status, fake confidence, and fake strength. And now I was removing the glue, one breath at a time. She still didn't know I'd be leaving soon. She thought this was about boundaries. It wasn't. It was about departure. And when I left, it wouldn't be with anger or bitterness. It would be with peace. Because you can't grieve the loss of something that never existed in the first place. I waited for a Friday. Not because I wanted to ruin her weekend. Because I wanted her to finally notice the silence. All week, she'd been unraveling in small ways. Missed payments. A gym membership frozen. Her favorite stylist canceling last minute after her usual tips stopped clearing. None of it made her think of me. Not really. She blamed bank errors. And bad luck. Delusion is always loudest right before it dies. That morning, I set everything in place. Clothes, documents, electronics gone. Moved in stages. All that remained were the items I didn't want anymore. A token hoodie. My backup phone. A pair of old sneakers she'd once called embarrassing. Let her keep those souvenirs. I printed out the legal papers my attorney had drawn up. A clean, brutal exit. No negotiations, no begging. We'd been married under mutual agreement. I was ending it the same way. That evening, she came home from yoga. Hair done, nails fresh. No yoga mat in sight. She was too distracted to notice the suitcase by the door. She dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes. "Hey babe," she said, halfway through a text. "You cooking tonight? Or should we order?" I turned off the burner. Left the pan on the stove. Untouched. "You'll want to sit down." She paused. That was new. She didn't take instructions from me. Not anymore. But something in my voice stopped her. She sat slowly. I slid the envelope across the table. She didn't reach for it. "What's this?" "The moment you thought you'd never get." I watched her open it. Saw her eyes race through the words. Watched the smirk fall off her face like wet paint sliding down a wall. "What is this supposed to be?" "Freedom," I said. "Isn't that what you wanted?" She stared at me. No arguments. No accusations. Just my name, my signature, and your new beginning. "This is a divorce agreement." "Very good." She stood. "You're serious?" "I am." Her voice rose. "So that's it. You're just walking out like some coward." I smiled peacefully. "No. I'm walking out like someone who finally figured out the game was rigged." Her jaw twitched. The panic hadn't set in yet. But it was coming. "You can't just—" "I can," I said. "And I am. Everything in that document is legal. Fair. Signed. You'll be served by Monday." She was frozen. Not sad. Not angry. Just confused. Like she'd forgotten I was capable of choice. Like she'd really believed I'd stay forever, absorbing every jab, every betrayal, every dismissive glance like it was part of my marriage vows. I stood up. "Don't bother calling your mother," I said. "She's part of this. So is your sister. So is that little Airbnb party you thought was private." That broke her composure. Her mouth opened, but no words came. "I'm not going to post anything. I'm not going to humiliate you. You'll do that all on your own." "You're leaving me?" "You already left." "I'm just catching up." I grabbed my bag, slid on my coat, turned to leave. And then, just for me, I said one last thing. Strength isn't loud, Eva. It doesn't cheat. It doesn't blame. It walks out of the fire without raising its voice. And I walked out the door. Didn't look back. Didn't slam it. Just closed it like it was any other day. Because for me it was. That was a month ago. Since then, I've learned that her strength lasted about as long as her credit limit. I didn't have to ruin her. She did that all by herself. The moment I left, the fantasy shattered. Her gym guy? Gone the minute her card declined at his favorite sushi spot. Her sister? Too busy dealing with her own breakup to play support system. Her mother? Lost her nerve once she realized she couldn't guilt-trip me into staying. The family that stood so proudly behind her? They've gone quiet. Turns out, without someone to blame, they had to start looking at the real problem. Her. And from what I've heard, from mutual friends, the barista who used to joke with us, and even Jamie, her cousin who finally texted me back. It's been a spectacle. Whispers about the strong woman who got dumped. Rumors about money missing. Late rent. One particularly poetic detail. Apparently, she tried to get a loan in my name last week. Didn't know I'd already locked my credit. She still thinks I'm playing checkers. She'll never understand I was playing chess all along. I didn't feel free the moment I walked out. Not at first. I felt quiet, like the house was still in my lungs, and I had to exhale it slowly. But freedom doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes in silence, when you realize you're finally alone, not abandoned. I moved into a small condo on the edge of town. Clean, quiet, just enough space for peace and none for drama. I bought a new coffee maker. One she would have called cheap. I use it every morning, and it makes the best coffee I've had in years. That's the thing they never tell you about healing. It's not a dramatic rebirth. It's 1,000 quiet decisions that aren't influenced by someone else's judgment anymore. I never made an announcement. I didn't throw a party. But word got around. Mutual friends started reaching out. Some to express shock. Some, surprisingly, to apologize for not saying anything sooner. Most just wanted to hear the version that didn't make her the hero. I didn't give it to them. I told them I was done speaking on her behalf, something I should have stopped doing a long time ago. I don't know what story she tells now. I don't care. I know she's no longer working at that consulting firm. I know her brand launch failed before it even started. I know her gym guy isn't around anymore. She tried reaching out once. Texted me a photo of our old dog, the one I let her keep because I thought she needed the company more than I did. I didn't reply, not out of pettiness, out of peace. Because when someone shows you who they are, the worst thing you can do is try to reintroduce yourself. But there was another path I could have taken. I've imagined it more than once. What if I'd waited until her birthday? Not to celebrate, but to stage the reveal. I had enough proof. Screenshots, emails, bank records, even that Airbnb receipt her mother helped pay for. Imagine the scene. Her entire family at the dinner table, holding glasses of champagne, toasting to the illusion, and then me pulling out a projector and saying, "Let me show you what your strong woman has been up to." Her mother's smile would have frozen mid-toast. Her sister's laugh would have caught in her throat. And Eva? She'd watch every smug breath she ever took crawl back down her windpipe. I could have watched them all squirm. Could have let them drown in their own humiliation. But I didn't, because I'm not like them. And that's exactly what makes me stronger. I've often imagined a different outcome, one where I didn't leave at all, one where I stayed, played along, let her think she won, and then quietly dismantled everything. Cut her access to the accounts, took her name off the title, let the bills pile up while pretending everything was fine. And just when the walls were closing in, I'd hand her a mirror and say, "This is who you married." I'd live under the same roof long enough for her to feel what I felt. Insignificance, dismissal, emptiness. Only mine would be controlled, purposeful. I wouldn't raise my voice. I wouldn't break a single plate. I'd just exist as a silent reminder of everything she lost but was too arrogant to notice. But that's the thing. That version of me, he's still angry. And I'm not. I'm not angry anymore. Because walking away didn't make me weak. It made me weightless. Final word? They say strength isn't standing your ground. I disagree. Real strength is knowing when the ground beneath you isn't worth standing on anymore, and having the courage to walk off it without waiting for applause. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I just left. And that's the part they'll never recover from. Because you can rebuild after rage, but you can't rebuild after indifference.